19th century understanding of Republican government, small r. I think Rand Paul would be your guy, right? I mean that.
No, because you have to understand, there's guilt by participation. These people have knowingly and willingly participated and drawn.
So who's your guy then? Do you have a guy that?
There's not a guy. Look. I mean, if somebody stands for election, it surprises me that let's go ahead and consider them. But we have a much bigger job before us, which is to develop a language consistent enough to ensure that whenever candidates stand for election, they're properly questioned and interrogated and appropriately discarded. Now, that's not as fun because we prefer to have all the work done for us by the political parties. We prefer them to put on these debates, these boring, trite, monotonous debates that are all the same, and then they'll pick the winner of those, and then we'll just vote for the blue guy or the red guy. I mean, it's kind of pathetic. So what we want to have a conversation about actually, what we ought to have here in this country, about what it means to have.
Man, fuck this country, nigga. Be quiet, bitch ass nigga. Fuck this country, nigga.
The hell is that? What is going on? Are you alright?
We have a cantankerous room. P, what's going on? P, JP. What are your thoughts on the issue? I don't know how you vote, but what is your hope for the country in 2028?
I hope that the National Convention.
Based.
Yeah. And unfortunately, one question for you guys, because I'm not even in the States. I'm an outside observer of the United States, but a scholar of it. But I want to ask people. I hate about the sense that you need to speak about people who find the problems and the solutions to be given to you top down. But if I must talk about people, because that's what people talk about, what do you think of Thomas Massie?
I mean, I'd love to tell you that Thomas Massie is going to solve everything, but you have to be willing to speak in a certain way and avoid certain things to make it in this illegitimate system of governance at all. And he's been willing to do that. I assure you that he will not provide you with some relief. You really need to recognize how dire the problem is. You can send the best and the brightest to Congress, and they're going to get turned into another automaton. I mean, that's not speculation. That's bad. And then,
isn't part of the problem that if you're a House member, which is most of the Congress, you're basically spending all your money raising millions of dollars to keep a job that pays like $150,000. I mean, it's ludicrous. I mean,
you're not spending your money. I mean, that's the problem, is that you're not spending your money. You're not being elected based on money you spend. You're being elected based on money people spend to get you elected, and in order to get elected, you've had to play ball. And ultimately, the House of Representatives should be important. There's several. I mean, the United States has one representative in the House, and again, I'm violating, a policy here, one of my own policies to tell you this. There's about 750 to 780,000 people per representative in Congress. That is the worst in the developed world. There's no one even close. I think the next
on the low side, actually, the high side's about 1.2.
1.2 million?
Yeah. The founders wanted about 30,000, but it's anywhere between about 700,000 and about 1.2 million.
Yeah, the founders very clearly forgot. They didn't anticipate states willingly giving up their right to maximize the number of representatives that they could send. And then, in 1912, we stopped sides to the House, and we end up with something that would not be necessary if we just did what the Constitution had originally laid out, which was that you need, no more than one representative for every 30,000 people. You think every state would be saying, okay, well, every 30,000 people I got, I'm sending another representative. A lot of California's complaints would be resolved immediately if they just demanded this, but they don't. So you have to understand, it's like when you tell somebody who's morbidly obese, you need to stop putting food in your mouth. It's like, they'll give you these excuses. At the end of the day, they just won't stop putting food in their mouth. That's absolutely all there is to it. And as far as the Constitution, the rule of law is concerned in the United States, the prognosis is clear, the therapy is clear, everything is clear. No one is willing to do it because no one is going to hold them accountable if they don't. And we continue to play this game where we say there's a serious systemic problem, and then we just pick a personality and say, well, they've got the right stuff. For Christ's sake, we elected Donald Trump. People endorsed and supported Donald Trump for the office of the presidency. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Good I just
And I'm not fine.
You said he's a guy that's right of censor.
I'm sorry?
Fair to say you're right of center or no?
I probably consider right of center.
So you and Joe.
I don't know. Hold on. I don't think that you can put me. I don't think we should consider ourselves on a spectrum between the right and the left here, because, as a matter of fact, this is irrelevant. The greatest rule to the constitutional republic is so great that I don't think anything short of a complete rebirth, reincarnation, a reassertion of cornerstone foundational law is going to preserve liberty and justice and prosperity. This is the right of center. The right elected Donald Trump. The right said the right has been accused of being Nazis. She believes that we should blindly and unquestioningly.
Joe, I'm nodding heavy-handed today. What are you?
That's not true.
I'm not being heavy-handed. I'm trying to keep the smart people on the stage. So, how do you respond to that, Joe? I mean, that sounded to me like somebody that's going to lose elections.
I was responding to him. What he was saying is not true. I think the right takes each individual topic and measures it according to their core beliefs. And that's where the difference lies. The Democrats and the Republicans have different core beliefs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think my own party, I actually think the best chance we had at taking back the country was in 2016 with Bernie Sanders, because he was a working class guy. He was not a culture warrior, right? He didn't want to be in people's bedrooms. He didn't want to talk about religion. He wanted to talk about resources and sustainable living. What we did was we put our thumbs on the scale and we sent him to the political wilderness, right? And we basically said, no, there's no Bernie Sanders allowed. And the only thing that's allowed in the Democratic Party is Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, these people that are stewards of a welfare state that no one, that I think a lot of people would like to see us go either to the right or to the left of. So I don't know, Joe. Don't know. Marshall, are you still on the phone or no?
I'm not on the phone, I was doing math.
Oh, what's the math saying?
The math says I have more work to do.
Wait, knocking on doors, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm counting how many doors I knocked on.
Do you get paid per door, or no?
No, I negotiated a flat rate of $200 a month, plus other campaigns.
Oh, that's not bad. How do I get that gig?
When your senator goes up for re-election, volunteer, see if you can be a paid door knocker, and then you go knock out in people's doors, and hopefully the next year they'll pay you more. They probably won't pay you a ton the first year, but if they're well financed and they can afford to pay, ask for something decent. Like don't think you can't ask them to pay you. Just like don't ask for like $5,000 a month. They're probably not going to pay you $5,000 a month.
Door knocking is hard, though. It really is, Marshall. I hate it.
But it's fun. I like it.
But
It's
you
a
have
lot of fun.
to have a certain personality. I'd rather,
That's true.
I don't know, people.
I do the knocking.
I think I like both. I like and I like doing podcast interviews and things like that. Maybe with leaders, but I'm kind of. I like strangers. I find strangers really interesting, and I think you get an interesting perspective when you talk to a stranger. Although I'll tell you quite frankly, I'm not. I'm in Philly right now. I'm not talking to many strangers, but they're all around me. But I'm not talking to them. Simon, how are you? What are your thoughts on the state of the country, and do you have a political party, and where is your hope for the future of Western society? Yep, you sound great.
Yeah, I can hear you, Simon. Go ahead.
I'm extremely pessimistic for the future of Western civilization. I would not affiliate myself to any political party in the U.S. at the moment. I think there's huge, how do you say it, strides that in order to culturally in favor of more freedom, and people have to have like a proper understanding of what that looks like, because I don't see a cultural trend in any positive direction at the moment in the US.
Simon, that famous maxim, I would say, by Andrew Breitbart, that said, politics comes spring from culture.
Yeah.
So if you want to influence politics, upstream or downstream?
Yeah, I think that is largely right. I mean, I think politics is always downstream of culture. I think what's interesting is the Democrats for years have been the influencers of culture through media, through education, things like that. I think what's interesting is Trump turned that around. Like Trump is a one-man resistance to the left, and he's incredible at this, right? I mean, I think he's, basically, he's as good of a weapon as anything the left has, and he just does it by the sheer force of his personality, which is super interesting and intriguing. Yeah, I mean, I think he's the best thing the right has ever had.
I don't know if he's the best we've ever had, but he certainly is the best of the modern era, at least in the last 10 years.
Who was better? Ronald Reagan. Reagan was better.
White Eisenhower.
Oh yeah.
White Eisenhower is far better.
Culturally, Trump actually destroyed. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's that destroyed it, but because of how I think Trump reunited the center left, center right. So I have to define the ideas of the left and right because now the Democratic Party has shifted really radical. But now the right basically doesn't stand for any of its original principles. So it's the right, because of the one of the policies that Trump has now, is basically just a party of basically nothing. It's just a mixture of left and right, and it doesn't have any Trump principles behind it. Whereas in the 80s, speaking to some Trump conservatives, they were actually opposed to Trump welfare systems and all that stuff. Where it's now it's just a season for anybody basically not a crazy leftist to join the party. And now those people are in the party with dumb economic policies, all that good stuff.
I have to jump. Excuse me. I'm finished eating. Sorry. Thank you for letting me speak, Scott and Marshall.
Oh, Joe, I'm a huge fan of yours. Come to any of my stages. I adore you. So, and I'm the only school choice Democrat on Clubhouse. So,
That's right. Bye, you guys.
Benjamin,
Great to see you.
Benjamin, look, my friend, I'm putting rooms.
Oh yeah, you're opening a room. That's good. I was graduated from Clubhouse now. I am now promoting my content and my new DVD, How to Survive in an Islamic Country. It's got all the things you need to know when an Islamic country comes to you, which it probably will come soon.
Now, Benjamin, you're an interesting guy because I think you don't map very clearly politically.
Yeah, no, I don't.
No,
On all your houses.
Well, would you like a fresh five to tell us what's your vision for the country? I mean, what would if you could
I have a pretty simplistic view of history. I see history as being largely a conflict between the Zoroastrians and the Islamicists. And I see the West as being Zoroastrian. I don't acknowledge Judaism as a religion. I don't acknowledge Christianity as a religion. I just call them Zoroastrianism in drag.
So you would say these traditions are part of this thing that came came out of the Middle East that's largely monotheistic.
It's a monotheistic dualism.
Okay.
Things are either good or bad and all this kind of categorization. And, you know, and it matters how much good you do, and when you die, somebody damn, right? All of that is Zoroastrian as far as I'm concerned. It's not really present. Like, if you read Job, you wouldn't get the notion that the dominant religious view is a monotheistic, a dualistic religion, right? You weird kind of God character who plays with his food and has no other redeeming virtues. So I think that religious thought died a long time ago. And what we have today is much more aligned with what the Zoroastrians, the Persians had, 600 BC. And then we have Islam, which is dead set on destroying Zoroastrianism. And I think that one of them is better than the others. I think Zoroastrianism is pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. And Islam is just god-awful, horrible, nasty, and must be defeated. I think that it's a shame that we're going to have to elect monsters, cretins, that you wouldn't want your daughter to have anything to do with, right? Like the worst people in the world. In order to defend us from the Islamicists, because the people that you would want to have government refuse to do it, are incapable of doing, are so confused. They can't bear to tie their own shoes. So we end up with the politicians we need, not the politicians we want. Because the only agenda item that matters is beating Islam. And that's the only agenda that's mattered for 2,000 years.
So you're a Clash of Civilizations guy, and
probably I am, right? This is all Clash of Civilizations.
Yeah. I hate being that guy, but I'm in your camp. You know, I'm of the same perspective. I think largely we built this thing that is built on, we call it Judeo-Christian, we call it Abrahamic faith, like I ever say, you know, and we kind of evolved beyond it, right? I mean, there are people like me that you would make fun of because I can't let go of the silly traditions, but you know, you and I are aligned on this kind of perspective that we've got a system that is robust, interesting, pluralistic, diverse. Most of world civilization doesn't do this, and we create tremendous amounts of wealth, right? And you're kind of saying we've got to hold on to it at any cost, and I don't think you're wrong, actually.
Yeah, I'm not usually wrong. I mean, a lot of people have tried to explain to me why I'm wrong. They tend to kind of gurgle a lot. Usually they reduce to something like an ad hominem, where they say something like, well, you don't have a college degree, which seems to be their argument. And I'm just like, well, it's not really going to help you when the Muslims come and decide that you got to believe in Muhammad, or they're going to kill you with a sword.
I've been to 3 academic institutions in my
You
time.
can't hold up your little college credential and say, yeah, but I have a college credential. Like, it's not.
Benjamin, you are as smart as anyone I was in doctoral work with at Princeton. Doesn't mean I agree with you all the time, but I mean, your intellectual capability is not. Yeah, I mean, you're pretty good.
I gotta say this, you and I had the exact opposite reaction to like not having a college degree. I dug further into academia and books. I'm not saying you don't read, but you like seem to eschew college degrees and kind of what they represent. Maybe I'm getting your position a little wrong. I think I kind of am. So correct me, please. it seems like we took two totally different lessons from it. Like I want my 4-year degree. I think it's in my mind it's a bad thing that I didn't finish what I started, and so I want to finish it. I don't know if you ever had the same opportunity, if you just never went to college, but you seem to approach it in a totally different fashion. So.
Well, I have sympathy for people like my friend Scott who find it difficult to learn on their own, and they need help, and they've got to go find somebody they can pay money to help them learn. It's really a tragic thing to be a human and not know how to learn. It'd be like paying somebody to teach you how to walk. But whatever. I mean, I'm a generous soul. I don't judge.
I was just hoping you would reflect on the difference between the two ways.
I judge people for having to pay other people to help them learn. But look, I think there's a real problem with universities, which is they're sapping our economic vitality. And there's some good research that's come out and really pointed out that what happens is we take people who are kind of medium smart. I mean, smart people don't go to college, to be honest. You think Bill Gates is going to college? You think Mark Zuckerberg is going to spend more than 25 days in college? University is not for smart people. It's for people who want to be smart. Now, the second is the universities are taxing young people, and they're loading them up with debt. So they leave the university with $150,000 in debt, and that really curtails their options. So these people who should be going out and creating new businesses are instead going out and accepting kind of an old school job that they hate, and they sit in there and they rot and they don't do the job very well. They're not very productive. They're not creating new opportunities, and they kind of have to do this because they're sitting on a debt that they can't pay. And so they just kind of like end up winding out, and then they kind of like, they're just kind of like their life ends. And they've actually categorized the amount of new businesses that are missing because we've created a debt-oriented educational, pseudo-educational system. So yeah, I think the pseudo-educational system is at this point harming our vitality, our families. It delays the formation of families. It delays the formation of businesses, and we need families and businesses far more than we need credentials. There's not much you can do with a credential. I don't know if you've ever tried to do anything with a credential, but they're pretty useless piece of paper.
Exactly. There's a quote I read today by Carl Sagan that said, the most intelligent people are self-taught, even if they went to the university. And so, and it proves true, Elon wouldn't be, well, Elon did finish, but Gates wouldn't be Gates, or Jobs wouldn't be Jobs,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a case in which we've overemphasized degrees and underemphasized practical learning. But I still, as somebody who never finished school, I regret not finishing school. It's not a piece of my life where I think to myself, God, I escaped that boring old university system. It's a case where I often think to myself, man, I really wish I finished my history degree. Right? Like I think about that often.
What do you think?
I had a different approach.
Marshall, what do you imagine is in the history degree?
Nothing. I just want to be able to say I did it. I don't like the fact that I quit something halfway through.
But Marshall, do you really think that a history degree is anything other than a collection of lies that the victors tell themselves?
I don't think it's a collection of lies. I think your point is can't I learn that stuff other places? And it is. I think the reason it matters more to me is because I quit halfway through.
Well, what
right? I was not in a. Just give me a second. Like I was not in a place, like headspace wise, where school was a good idea. It just wasn't. Like I had a bunch of shit wrong with me, and like couldn't have told you what was wrong with me, but I want that piece. I want to be in it. Maybe that's stupid, but like I want to be able to say I finished what I started.
There you go.
So this is nice. This is wonderful. I'm gonna be giving some. Thanks, guys.
Is Marshall broken up for everybody here?
A woman who I've known many years after reading my Substack told me, we don't hate the Jews, we just hate the Zionists and the criminal country of Israel. Okay, that's the point of view. And she went on and on and on, sending me message after message after message, which proves, I put that in quotation marks, that Jews are liars. See, if you're born Jew, you're a liar. So right there we see that claiming that you're anti-Semitic, you're just anti-Zionist or anti-Israel, isn't going to cut it any longer. And they're coming out from behind that facade and letting us know. Okay, so introduction. I'm going to start calling people in the order in which I see them, and I will be bringing people up from the stage one at a time. From the audience to the stage one at a time. And today I begin with Alan, followed by Howard.
Thank you, Gary. My prayer will be after you, after I read your article. And I think it's a time everybody has started speaking against these nonsense and these haters, which they call you and every single. It's the excuse they come up with. They're trying to justify them criminal act one way or another. In no matter in what way. This is just stupid. I just disagree with the Zionism and the state of Israel, but I beat the hell out of the poor Jewish guy going to synagogue in California. Can you see there is no connection in between other than propaganda, and these people grow up with the hate against the Jewish people and so forth and so on. If you look at my picture, I can translate the Persian writing on the picture on my nickname. The stupid idiot reporter of Germany, middle of nowhere, and asked Reza Shah II, are you the Mossad agent? And look at the profound answer he gave. He says, no, I'm not. But while you and your government were burning the Jewish people in the oven, my grandfather harbored them and helped them to the best he could. out of nowhere, he comes in, try to use this propaganda and the hate just automatically to turn the focus to the hate Reza Shah II. That's all there is to it. If they connected to him, automatically they believe in the rest of the world's gonna hate him. They did that with his father. They couldn't. They wouldn't shredded the evidence he had anything. Jewish, I'll grow up with Jewish. I'll grow up with Christian Armenian. They were freely walking around. There was no sign of anything. But you want to take care of probably 60-70% of this, get rid of the cause of it. And it is the regime of Iran. They came to the power with this, but actually, I'm going to start saying exactly what the Iranians say it from inside Iran. The Islamic regime of Jimmy Carter, and you cannot deny that. You cannot pass it on. You cannot do anything. That's the 100%. But enough is enough. I think the whole human race, they need to stand up with this nonsense. Every time I hear some poor Jewish guy, for one reason or another, he got hurt, it breaks my heart. Because I believe in my heart, human are the same organs of one body. If one organ gets hurt, the rest all gonna be hurt. There's no other thing to go to it. But when you raise the kids, they go and they put the bomb in them belt and blow themselves up in the bazaar. There gotta be something wrong in those things. All you hear is poor Palestinian. Your heart is bleeding for Palestinian. What about the one they go to Iran and beat the hell out of the innocent people on the street? My nephew, she was 12 years old when he says, Uncle, these people don't speak Farsi. They don't understand. All they have these baton in their hand and they beat the hell out of individual. And then where they come from? Palestine. The poor Palestinian. Everybody's heart is bleeding for them because they are dying of hunger. No, they're not. They were the leftover, they were the criminal of the Egyptian which they kicked out. And they didn't have no place, no name, no nothing until that bastard ambassador came around. And the things start going. And right after that, the no human Khomeini came in and start saying Zionism. But we say not Zionism, but Zionism. Zion means the person is love his country, is ready to die for his country. Those 14, 15, 16, 17, 20 years old Jewish people, they joined the IDF by heart just to defend their own country. Back to you, Gary. But people need to start talking.
So thank you very
They
much.
stop going exactly the same.
So thank you, Alan. You're absolutely right that in modern Iran, there was an affinity between the actual body politic of the country by this regime. And it is also true, you're absolutely right, that they are the greatest exporter of terrorism in the world, and their number one targets are not just Israelis and Israel, but Jews. However, I just want to point out that when you're Jewish, you have to have your head on a swivel, because it's not just coming from these Islamic extremists that are running the regime in Iran. It's coming from the far left and it's coming from the far right. And some of the comments that I'm getting as a result of my postings are indicative of commentary that's coming from people who are not necessarily Muslims or not necessarily Palestinians, but who just hate Jews, and they're using these conflicts as an excuse to go after Jewish people. And so that's the problem that the Jewish community faces. You have this organized, this state-sponsored organized terrorism coming from one direction, and you have organized hatred coming from the far left, and you have organized hatred coming from the far right, and it's very hard. I mean, we have to seek in this country, as we discussed yesterday, and in the world, some moderation and some middle ground, because people look, and I truly believe what that minister said, Lutheran minister said during the Holocaust. You know, everybody kept quiet when they came after the Jews, and then when they kept quiet when they came after the Gypsies, and when they came after this one and that one. And then he said, and then when they came after me, there was nobody to speak up. That's a paraphrasing, but I think it was a very powerful comment that he made. And I think we have to be cautious that history not repeat itself. When people are suggesting gas ovens for the Jews, because allegedly because of what Israel is doing, whether you agree with them or not, is just absolutely indicative. And if they feel comfortable saying this out loud, not just in their little man caves or in their neighborhood pubs, whatever, now we've got a problem. Thank you for that, Alan. Howard, followed by Marshall.
Thanks, Gary, and Alan, thanks for sharing your perspective. Gary, yeah, unfortunately, I don't really have any good things to add. I mean, this is an extremely serious issue that's festering. It's continuing to grow. Just to connect, a couple days ago on this stage, we were talking about the events that happened over the weekend with the correspondence dinner. You had someone on the stage who firmly believed like it was the Democrats calling for the president's assassination, and that person revealed, well, that's what they're seeing on their social media. They believe it. And Marshall said, yeah, it's an algorithm. I don't want to put words in Marshall's mouth, but essentially Marshall was saying people get influenced by the algorithms, and I know today's social media is definitely not helping the cause. I know recently I have a person that I know very closely that is involved with a pretty big summer camp at a JCC in the country, and they've made the decision this summer, and they're going to have over 300 campers at one time, that they are not going to do any off-site field trips, no trips to the zoo, to the park, to a lake. They're keeping everything on the premises because of concerns about violence and the rise in anti-Semitism. And the last thing I'd like to add, Gary, is the thing I'm most concerned about, and especially when I think about my daughter and call it the next generation, that similar to what's happened, as one example, with school shootings, whether it was Columbine or what happened at Parkland down in Florida, my other concern is with this rise in anti-Semitism. I think, generally speaking, and it could be because of the way our habits are forming with our news cycles, there's a growing desensitization to it. That it's like, oh, it's not. It's like it's another one. Like it's not as big of a deal as the shocking and the horror of the actual event in isolation is. And then, Gary, there's one thing I will disagree with you on, because I see it personally in my interactions. You're saying the anti-Semitism, it's either far left or far right. There's growing anti-Semitism straight in the middle, just people have views and attitudes based on current events. And I've come across people who actually are sharing their anti-Semitic.
To have faith in what is written in Old Testament, and this problem lasted 1,900 years. And after the independence of Israel in 1948, the Pope had to struggle with this. What should we do? Now, the Bible in the Old Testament actually is coming to the truth. And so the Pope in Vatican struggled for another 17 years before finally a Pope said, we have to start recognize there is a physical Israel. But in 2026, if you speak to Catholic from South America, from those swing states, from Europe and other part of the world, there's no physical Israel. It's contradiction. It's church replacing physical Israel. And this is why you young Catholic like Candice Owen, all this shouting about anti-Semitic and so on. So that is the foundation, right? And then for the left is that after the exile of the Jews in 70 AD, then came Islam about 600 years later, and they say, look, the church is against the Jews, so shall we. And so there came the Quran, you have to kill Jews. And so this explains the far left, right? You have Hassan Piker, right? That the Democrat is endorsing him. He's the number one Democrat Party representative of anti-Zionist. And anti-Zionist is a bullshit of another word of anti-Semitic, right? So Hassan Piker is the loudest noise now in the left of the Democrat. And because of this and other factor, you have recently Alan Dershowitz, it's very hard to pronounce his name, right? He has been Democrat since 14 years old, and now he's close to 80 years old, and he publicly announced, from now on, I'm a Democrat. I can't take any more bullshit coming from Democrats, which is totally anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, right? So, but why are we seeing the rise of threat level in UK? It's all coming from the mother of propaganda machine, which is since 1979, the Iranian Murad IRGC regime, like Aaron said, these are the propaganda machine behind pro-Palestine. Why? People who support pro-Palestine, they don't see the connection. Where these people get the money from? The mother of tentacle, which is Murad IRGC regime. This funded a lot of this propaganda machine, so much that if you are in the center of US, because of YouTube algorithm, you're bound to get all this anti-Semitic narrative. The question is why now? Because Trump is putting so much pressure on Iran, Murad and IRGC regime now. It's all who blink first in order for the Iran, Murad, IRGC regime.
Wait, that explains the uptick of Jew hatred in both the UK and the United States?
Yeah, because they have to quickly, the whole ideology of Murad IRGC regime is to bring down the whole world. And
I grant you they influence it, but I doubt the majority of Jew hatred in the United States is coming from the country of Iran.
Let me explain.
Okay,
So the whole idea is the Murad regime promotes end time of Islamic world, right? And this end time of Islamic world it involves shooting missile to the Gulf state. And so the Muslims say, my God, we are in the end world. So we have to start killing Jews. Otherwise, by the time we reach the judgment day, we have to be peaceful.
Unfortunately, a lot of the attacks on the Jews, probably most of the attacks on the Jews in the United States, I won't say this is true for Europe. It's not coming from the Muslims. All of this organized nonsense that occurred on the college campuses did not come from the Muslims. It came from the far left. So I I think you speak too much in absolutes on this issue, David. So, for example, you said a moment ago that the Democratic Party is entirely anti-Semitic, and I think even you know that that's hyperbole on your part. Hakeem Jeffries, Cory Booker, Richie Torres, Dan Goldman, who is Jewish, these are just off the top of my head. They've been vocal supporters of Israel in combating anti-Semitism. There are Democratic advocacy groups, like the Democratic Majority for Israel, which is promotes pro-Israel policies within the party, and then they back candidates who support those views. And Jews are well represented within the Democratic Party. A significant percentage of Jews are Democratic elected officials in Congress. I don't know the exact number. I can look it up. So to say, what's that?
I don't disagree if you speak to Alan Dershowitz. He's a Democrat since 14 years old. Why he now publicly wrote that he's switching to Republicans?
Well, because there is some within the Democratic Party anti-Semitism that is beginning to raise its head, and the party is struggling with how to handle that, because they have this open tent philosophy that we're open to everyone. So they try to accommodate everyone. So how do I accommodate the anti-Semite without, and the Michigan case is a prime example. The Muslim guy running for the Board of Regents as a Democrat at the University of Michigan at the state convention, I discussed it the other day. He was cheered on and nominated, acing out the incumbent Jewish guy after posting a tweet in support of Hezbollah. Because you don't want to be seen as a Democrat as, God forbid, being anti-Muslim, and if you stand up to this guy for his support of terrorism, it may be misinterpreted as being not anti-terrorism, but anti-Muslim. So the Democratic Party is having a difficult time, which you don't see institutionalized in the Republican Party. And so as a result of that, and as a result of some prominent members of the Democratic Party making statements about the right of Israel to exist, etc., and I know you know to whom I am referring, there are Jews who have traditionally been Democratic voters who are now leaving the party, not just the example that you give, but I know many Jews who are at least considering themselves no longer Democrats and independents, many of them now declaring themselves to be Republicans. So that's the reason. I think that's the reason why, David, is far more nuanced, though, I believe, than the way you present.
I agree. The way you point out is much more accurate. And what I want to go back is the campus. So the whole idea is the campus protest is a recruitment of the far left, recruitment of the student. How do you recruit them? Indoctrinate that into the university curriculum, and where the money come from the Middle East. The whole idea is the end time ideology bring down the whole world by systematically indoctrinate the West, so that they have this idea of pro-Palestine everything. Everything is to bring down the whole world, recruit the far left, try to provoke the far right, and then keep on telling the Muslim living in the West, you want to kill the Jewish now, do it now. Otherwise, you are running out of time. Thank you.
I think you're absolutely correct about the undue influence of certain Arab countries on our universities, and there's been some research into that recently as a result of the attacks on Jewish students on campus. Because once again, because they are Jewish, and because they might support the state of Israel, they are legitimate targets. How dare you have that point of view when my point of view is the righteous, moral, and ethical point of view. So you are deserving by virtue of your faith of birth of whatever pressure I can put on you. And some of that pressure, and I have documented it in my reporting, has been academically based. I have done stories about students whose grade point average was diminished because of their views on Israel. So it's pretty obvious that there's a causation there with all that money flowing in. You're absolutely right about that, Dave. Perusian followed by agent.
Hello, Gary, everybody.
Hello.
Sorry, was making me coffee. It's a little bit late here in Germany. So just want to share also my concerns about the rise of this anti-Semitism in also Europe. And as I understand now, as I wrote that article that you shared, I was shocked about that incident in Manhattan. We also in Germany, I know that German officials are also concerned about the security situation. I know that security has been leveled up. So me myself, I am working in different projects with also the Jewish community here in our state. Very trustfully since more than 14 years. And maybe I just want to share that we founded an association that is studying about the roots of anti-Semitism in Iran, especially because since the state where I'm located in Germany, it is the state of concentration camps of Buchenwald. Sadly, the city of Erfurt, the company of Topf and Söhne were the producers of the crematoria, so that has been used in Auschwitz and all the other concentration camps around Europe. So the local government and city has a huge asset of knowledge about the history and unbelievable size of this, the Shoah and of this human catastrophe. This is some kind of reason why we are trying to transfer and translate this knowledge for the Iranian audience to understand. But during our, we found out that really anti-Semitism in Iran is a biggest part of the phenomenon. The first, actually, Iran since more than 2,700 years. So compared to the living of the Jews in Germany, it is 3,000 or 2,000 years more. So the Jews lived in Iran, and during they lived in Iran, we were once Zoroastrian, then we changed our religion. We have been forced to change our
request the
religion
federal U.S. Attorney
to
Andrew
Islam,
Butchers to
Sunni,
suspend the
Islam,
Safety Act to
and
do against the
we
state of
have
Illinois,
majority
Democrat
of
legislator
Iranian has
Christopher
been forced to
Brown,
change
Eileen
their
Burke
religion
forced
to
the U.S.
Shiite.
Supreme Court to
So they
determine the
have been
Constitution
witness
of
of changing our border country during thousands of years. So there are historical roots and family marriages between the people who were once Zoroastrian. Nowadays, it happened that they are Shiite. So, but in their soul, we are sure. Me myself, my parents rooted in Hamadan, the city of Esther, and Matachai, in the city of Purim. So we have, of course, a lot of Jewish people in our roots, in our family in the past centuries. So we Iranian lived with the Jewish people in more than friendship and harmony, but the phenomenon of, the Tsar in, Russian Russian Empire rooted anti-Semitism came to Iran with this massive fake book of the Protocol of the Wise of the Zion. It was a propaganda book that sometimes, sadly, is still discussed in some.
Maybe out of Russia originally.
Exactly. This is the first wave of anti-Semitism in Iran in the modern history. Cities of Tabriz, Urumiyeh, Hamadan, Kermanshah, their elites, those who could, the sons of, or the people who could send their sons and daughters to study foreign languages, they came to touch with that madness book. And the second wave is the German-rooted anti-Semitism that was huge. The Germans came to Iran and told them fairy tales like we are Aryan people. At the same time, we found out here in concentration camp of Buchenwald, Samuel Hushmand, an Iranian doctor who has had his practice in Frankfurt am Main, was captured and killed and murdered in Buchenwald. Two other Iranian people, we have found out their names and we have every information about them. And we are studying about it and translating the information for the Iranian audience in, an open online information. So just want to land my point. The third wave is the socialist-made, pro-Palestine-made anti-Semitism. Of course, we had also, and we have Islamic-rooted, deeply Islamic, and in the Sunnite tradition, existing anti-Semitism. So we have then 4 different problems we have to face. But I think with that, I want to land my point. I think that Iranian people are, compared to the development of the other parts of the world, Iranians are thinking exactly in the other way. We want and we love to reduce the tensions with the Jewish people. We slowly are studying our own history and studying the roots of madness in Europe. We understand that the Jewish people has been once took hostage by the Romans and took in chains to Europe and the Roman Empire. And now, after all this pogroms, and all this, what they have seen in Spain, in Great Britain, in Germany, in Ukraine, in Poland, they have found back to their roots, to our neighborhoods, to Shalim, to the Holy Land. I would be happy and I would work for us to live in harmony, all the people of this Abrahamic religions to live together. Other solution, there ain't no other solution. Either we live all in peace together in harmony and let the Jewish people be back again in their roots. Because me, honestly, I have to say that if I were a Jew, I couldn't count of the mercy of the British people to let them live there, or the mercy of the German people to live there another time. Germany, for them to trust Germany, that no, never ever will happen. That stuff. So it is necessary for them to have their own country. We haven't understood that modern phenomenon 70, 80 years now. I think that is the time that we learn to live in harmony with our Jewish neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to kind of reset the room a little bit and go back to what's going on in London today, in addition to what we've already discussed. A yeshiva in London today, we do not know the cause at this point, but there was a major fire there. I want to, not that they're listening, but if they were to be listening, I just feel compelled to publicly thank the fire brigade there in London, because they immediately ran into that religious school remove the Torah scrolls, to turn it over to the leaders of the community, save the scrolls. That's the first thing they did. So, thank you to the firefighters of London. There's just so much going on there. The Prime Minister went to the area of the stabbing and was called a traitor. He was heckled because he went to show support for the Jewish community. You're a traitor, Mr. Prime Minister. There were people today driving down the roadway in London, waving Palestinian flags, and they were shouting, F the Jews, rape their daughters. F the Jews, rape their daughters. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So they feel unencumbered now. They feel like they have the right to go and do these kinds of things. And maybe they do. I don't know what the law is in the United Kingdom. I think they have similar free speech guarantees as we do in the United States. If you want to scream insults at the Prime Minister for supporting the Jews, I guess you can. It's just that, if some Muslims were attacked for their religion, God forbid, and the Prime Minister went out to show support for them, would people be calling him a traitor for supporting a community within his nation that came under attack? I really would hope not. Thank you for that, Perusian. We'll go to Agent, followed by our Maze.
Gary, thank you for having me. I think, zooming out a bit, there's a few things to say here, but I keep being reminded of this term that I think describes our current political system in the West, or at least increasingly in many Western countries, and that is anarcho-tyranny. It's a political system where the state fails to enforce basic laws against criminals while simultaneously over-regulating and punishing law-abiding citizens. The other day, for instance, I was in California and my car was broken into. All of my things were stolen. My IDs, my computers, a huge amount of my life, my work computers, everything. I could even see a lot of it moving on the tags and stuff, but the local defunded police agency is in a highly defensive posture. They said when all the things were settled and whatever, they could maybe send a police escort for me to go and confront my if I could go collect my things, and they'd maybe send someone to accompany me.
Okay, so what does that have to do with today's? I'm sure there's a correlation.
It does relate. I mean, it's just top of mind for me. I'm not trying to make it about me and my situation, but I think it relates to this concept that we are not focusing on the basic things that are going to keep people safe in society. People are more concerned with defending the status of, they're more concerned with not offending people by public officials, for instance, or by people with high status in society, rather than actually protecting the citizens and the population. And I think Jews, as many people talked about earlier, become a particular target for hate and for just victimization from a lot of different people. And at the same time, we live in the West is increasingly moving towards low trust society. If people familiar with that concept, it moved from a high trust to a low trust. So it used to be you could walk down the street, you could park on the street, you could do things, and You could go to synagogue and you wouldn't be attacked by your neighbors. But if we have these open societies where we explicitly, the government, the anarcho-tyrannic government, explicitly has policies that, in order not to appear bigoted in any way, or maybe even worse, to like try to undo the wrongs of whatever some injustices they imagine. Well, we're going to let in people en masse, and maybe even not in an orderly and legal way, that will that we know, if we actually are honest with ourselves, and they tell us very openly that they will explicitly target people like Jews, and they want to wipe Jews out, and Jews are their enemy, back to their holy books and everything. But no, that would be wrong to treat people, to collectively judge, millions of people entering from different parts of the world by those types of standards. That would be contrary to the liberal values of individualism and freedom and equality and all these things. So of course we would not take that into account. And we treat everyone, and then when the synagogues get attacked, and when Jews are murdered in the streets and so forth, it's like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, anti-Semitic. We won't even say who's doing it, because that would be wrong to name, people by a group. But it's just, and we'll just
who's doing it?
We'll overgeneralize it to the whole population, and just say, oh, anti-Semitism.
Well, yeah, but that's because both sides of the aisle have a problem with it. The left's got a problem with it, and the far right has a problem with it. It's both ends.
To me, that's not
it's both ends of our
certainly
society.
not part of that, Marshall. I can guarantee you, I am not part of those groups.
Bro, I'm a moderate Republican, and I'm not part of that stat. My point was it infects both sides. It's a hatred that's universal.
I don't know. It's not universal. It's not universal, Marshall. It's not universal. Thank you. I'm done speaking.
You may think that. My experience in the Republican Party tells me we have just as big a problem with it amongst. But you're welcome to think what you like, but trying to make it one political side over the other doesn't really do the job.
What about in England, Marshall?
In England, I don't know whether it's one side or not. From talking to my English friends, I get the feeling that a lot of them are Palestinian supporting.
Map on your political party thing onto this, and I'm not even talking about political parties.
Okay, thank you, Marshall and Agent. We'll go to Armaze, followed by Les.
Thank you, Gary. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. This is really sad. I don't like to hear that kind of stuff where Jewish people or any other group is being attacked, right? Or the threats of attack. I'm always making reference to Mexico, and we have a huge community, a Jewish community here in Mexico City, and we don't have problems like that. We have Claudia Sheinbaum, right? And Gary earlier was talking about how Jewish attorneys were protecting Black Americans when no one else would protect them. Maybe it's time for the Jewish community and the Latino community or Hispanic community, in particular the Mexicans, that we unite, that we come together. Thank you for the mic, Gary.
Well, I did my part. I married a Mexican woman. If that helps you with your project here, Hermes. Les versus Les, followed by Andrew.
So anti-Semitism coming from the Middle East is as old as Islam. Muhammad wiped out large swaths of Jews in Arabia because they didn't accept his religion, and that continued the Grand Imam of Jerusalem during World War II met with Adolf Hitler and asked that they deport the Jews. And Hitler was not ready to take them. He said in due time. But they were raring to go. And, if these guys in Britain don't want to live among British Jews, maybe they should leave Britain. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Andrew, you're up.
Hey, Gary, thanks for bringing me up. Yeah, I would say, there's a variety of things that are contributing to this. Of course, we know social media is. And I really think that is accelerating this anti-Semitism because it reaches so many people so fast. So it is my opinion that if this isn't indeed an emergency, as you suggest, and as I think you're correct, that these media companies, these social media companies, these technology companies are held to a high standard above which they are not being held now, both in terms of regulation as well as in terms of prosecution. Because it is on their platform that these things are being done. We have a tool that they are cramming down our throats as the savior of mankind, and that is called AI. Certainly this tool can be trained and is being trained in some regions to spot anti-Semitic tropes, to spot code words, to spot the context of a sentence, of something that somebody's saying. So we have the tools available. Also the algorithms, they should be made more public so that we can understand exactly, is this driving people to other information that is similar in order to keep them on that platform? So all these things, I think, have to be taken into consideration. And I think the final thing is education, and that has to start in school. I don't remember if I ever had any Holocaust education. They're now doing that in Alberta and Saskatchewan as mandatory courses. I just saw today, actually, which I think is a good thing. My introduction to this came at a little local store in Calgary where we would go, discount store. My mom would buy clothes and stuff there. And the proprietors were a Jewish couple from Eastern Europe. You could tell by their accent. They were heavily accented. Lovely people, lovely man. And he showed me his number. I didn't really understand then, I was maybe 12. I didn't really understand the significance of it, but it always stuck with me. And I then went on to find out myself. So that experience really hit me hard. And why would somebody have a tattoo on them? So a number tattoo. So I think that education has to be a critical element towards all this. All these things have to be taken in together and used as remedies. It'll never go away. We were just talking about it, how long this has been around. There's always people out there that have these vile attitudes. But if we can at least curtail the spread of it so easily without any responsibility for these companies, I think that's a good first step. Thank you, Gary.
So there's no way that these social media companies are going to be able to police every little thing that's put onto their programs. However, they operate on this philosophy of birds of a feather stick together. And so if I am a photography buff, as I am, and I look on any social media site at postings by photographers or about photography, I will suddenly have driven to me, this is getting to your algorithm point, Andrew, I will suddenly be driven to all of these postings about photography. I won't see postings on other things that I might also be interested in because I haven't, quote, told, close quote, the social media site that I was interested in these other topics. So they can use the algorithms to dispel some of the support system that they are accommodating for hatred. They could adjust their algorithms so that if a person is spewing out the kind of hatred that I documented in my piece that's linked above, the gas chamber statement, is not seen by other people who also have anti-Semitic views so they don't get ginned up. It's sort of like pedophilia. I think they try their best to suppress pedophilia on their programs, and they make it difficult, I think. I don't know, because this is not one of my interests, thank God, but my impression anyway is, and I stand to be corrected, that they make it difficult for the pedophilias to find others whose commentary would make them feel that their proclivities are normalized. So I think you're onto something here, and I would tell you that given the amount of legal duress companies like Meta are under right now with these lawsuits about these AI companions and how they might affect the minds of the developing minds of children, negatively, obviously, that if I were the head of one of these major social media programs, I would tell my extremely talented staff of developers to develop algorithms that dissuade people from sharing their views of hatred with other people who have similar proclivities. What do you think about that, Andrew? Do you think that's possible?
I think they have the tools. What they need is the will, and they've forever been. Oh, it's not us. We're just the platform. We're not responsible for what's said on it. But we know that that's a lie. That's not true. If I host a party full of Nazi sympathizers, then or they just come. Well, I'm still I want to get them out of there. But just to your point, Sam Altman is now being sued by residents of Thunder Ridge after that shooting in British Columbia because of their inaction. I think this is what needs to happen. They need to be held accountable. They need to be hit in the pocket. And in large sums, too, because these people are making billions. And Grok, Elon Musk just refused to go to France for questioning because of what his AI platform had produced in terms of pedophilia and weird, or not weird, but sexual content. They need to be held accountable. Sorry, that's the way I feel. Yeah. They have the tools. They have the technology. It's like the $6 million man. Come on.
So the reason they have these algorithms the way they do is to try to get you addicted to the programs, so that when I go onto Threads or onto X or onto Facebook or onto YouTube, whatever it is that it thinks that I'm interested in, I'm going to get. So I get my shot of dopamine, if you look back to the history of all this, to the history of Facebook, it was originally established so that a bunch of friends at a college, at a university, could keep in touch with one another. And then it expanded into a global community where we could keep in touch with our friends. And if you're an earlier user of Facebook, you will recall that on your timelines, you would see what your friends are doing. What's Scott up to today? What's Howard up to today? What's Austin doing? Because they're my friends on Facebook, and they're posting things that are important to them, and maybe things that are happening in their lives. Austin got a new job. He posts it so all of his friends can see it. He's not posting it so that strangers can see it. Why do strangers give a damn whether Austin got a new job? And so that's how their algorithms once worked. We were using Facebook to keep in touch with our friends. Now all these people who they call Facebook friends are people we've never met, and we are grouped with them based on interests, not based on friendships, because that keeps us coming back, and that makes their program more valuable. That's why we do it.
Yeah, so I think with the education, the digital literacy, that's also a key element for young people to learn how to use this technology, learn the pitfalls in this technology, learn to recognize misinformation, etc. It's hard for me to know what's misinformation, just by quote unquote looking at it, which I can't do. But I know it's out there, so I'm suspect. But you need to have that kind of suspect when you're on the internet. I remember my sister when she got on the internet. I told her, the first thing I told her is, first off, it'll teach you how to use it. Secondly, don't believe anything you see on it. And if you go into these chat rooms, most of them are not going to be good chat rooms. They're going to be on subjects that you're not going to like. So just, you've got to be aware and you've got to be discerning.
I hope the Critical Thinking Forum is the exception, Andrew.
So far, it's okay.
Thank you, Andrew. Austin, followed by David.
Hey, thank you, Gary. Thank you for hosting this room. Is my microphone working well? It says I'm having some connection.
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Yeah, the first thing I wanted to say about joining the stage to mention, like, the greatest generation really is the greatest generation amongst British people who lived through the mid-century and the early part of the 20th century. And I'm an elder millennial, folks who had a lot of contact with the greatest generation. I think a lot of British identity was around, we defeated the Nazis. And I imagine so many of these greatest generation would be rolling in their grave. Just imagine the side of the bombing of London, and they're seeing Nazi ideology circulate and be embraced by terrorists. It's utterly obscene. And then age when there was the mention of social media, we're dealing with a serious enemy and a seriously organized enemy. I was very young when 9/11 happened. I remember it, and I remember the changes, and I remember some of the harshness with having to remove my shoes to go through airplanes, and all this was established. How the hell did we forget this? Because the science of social media virality and the science of influence, it's not some dark art. You could learn it in like a 201, 301 class without a lot of marketing courses. This is accessible to so many people. We've had terrorist groups spreading misinformation, disinformation, and psychological warfare. And this is a very serious issue, and it's a true issue. Every clubhouse I'm friends with has heard that the Islamic Republic, Islam fascist nation, is putting together TikTok videos with Legos to create propaganda. Think about it, Legos. It's just utterly obscene, and we're not taking it seriously. And we have the science to take care of it. And I must say, I'm really glad that King Charles is in charge. I was there, as you mentioned, Gary. I'm so glad I sent you that link a while ago. he is an exceptional monarch. He's probably in the top 1 percentile of monarchs throughout history. That speech he gave to Congress was magnificent, and it's interesting to have a king who became a king at old age.
And you know what? You want to know something? It was a diplomatic speech, and he's not a comedian. But unlike Jimmy Kimmel, he made me laugh.
Yeah, truly brilliant. I mean, it's so interesting that his coronation was around the retirement age of most people, but he's just accumulated so much wisdom. He's very in touch with the norms of the greatest generation, and he knows what it means to be British. And he embraces modernism to a good degree. And it's just absolutely terrible. Like, just confusion and irony. Like, throughout the history of Palestine was a European colonial endeavor. And to see the irony of people so unlearned, so biblically illiterate, that they can't look at a map and see the Hebrew words of the ancient cities, or the ancient cities that were from Hebrew language and became Islamicized during various caliphates. It's just boggles my mind. But again, I guess it's a theme that keeps coming up. We're living a pick your own adventure book. We need to talk to our friends. We need to speak with the downtrodden and confused. And we need to elect leaders that are truly leaders and truly care about people. And I love London and I love grad school, and this is just deeply disturbing. Really brought me down to see what happened with all the attacks on universities. I want to get more degrees very soon, and part of delaying was definitely that spring of hatred that popped up. And it's just so strange. Like I said, like, what happened? We developed all these plans during 9/11. Are there these contingency plans that were drafted then, and someone just threw away the paper files, what to do if there's co-option or psychological information, disinformation, propaganda of terrorist groups? These are very concerning things. And I miss London being, I mean, I'm sure London's still fabulous for the most part, but it's such a cosmopolitan city. And higher education, what I loved about it is how collegial it was and how we came together as a community. And I hope I'll find that again. Be really disappointed. These days I'm really cognizant of my Ashkenazi roots and more connected with the spirituality. I'll be really disappointed. I cringe every time I see headlines of anti-Semitism on campus. It's antithetical